Quite a story to tell you out of Toronto. Dr. George Doodnaught has been convicted and now sentenced of an unimaginable crime. He was convicted of sexually assaulting 21 women while he was their anesthesiologist during the operations, right there in the operating room in the company of doctors and nurses and others who were involved in the operation. These women were conscious on some level, so they knew what was going on as he, a little bit of strong language here, put his penis in their hands, in his mouth, and did other sexual things. He has been convicted. He was actually able to do that for some period of time. Joining me now is Sarah and criminal lawyer Tyler McDonald. Tyler, I'll start with you. 21 convictions here, 21 victims, 10 years, and in Canada, of course, if he behaves himself, he'll be out in 6 or 7. So is that strong enough?
Well, it's hard for me to take issue with the sentence in this case because this was at the upper end of what his defense counsel asked for. He asked for 8 to 10 years, and the judge handed down a 10-year sentence. Right. The Crown asked for a 12 to 15-year sentence, so it's really only 2 years below the low end of what the Crown asked for. Whether this was justified in this case, that's something that the judge found. What
a horrible person. I mean, we think the least of the criminals who take on the most vulnerable, children, the sick and the elderly. In this case, these women were conscious to some degree, but you couldn't be more vulnerable.
Exactly, and that's why specific deterrence and general deterrence were the principles at play when the judge sentenced him.
Meaning what?
Well, specific deterrence is deter this person from doing this again.
Yes.
And part of that is also that he'll be on the sex offender registry for life. Presumably there's going to be some disciplinary action against him later on. It's also to send a message of general deterrence to other people who are likewise situated who may consider committing an offense like that. Those are the two prime considerations in sentencing for this type of case. Whether it has that effect, who knows? I mean, we know that there are harsh sentences handed out all the time in different countries across the world, and crimes still happen. Deterrence, does it always work generally?
No, I don't care about that. I want him locked up forever. Maybe we should be mad at the Crown here for not asking for enough.
Yeah, that as well as the fact that, you know, he's out on bail right now. So he was handed the sentence and then went back home to his family because he didn't have a chance to say goodbye to his 2 sons. So he's not actually even incarcerated
He's had plenty of chance to say goodbye to them, but he knew what was coming.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had plenty of chances. He was convicted in November, just sentenced this week. And, you know, he still actually has his license. He hasn't even been brought up and held disciplinary hearings in front of the Medical Association here in Ontario. Now, if I was one of these victims, I mean, there's 21 of them, it would appear to me that this guy got basically a bulk discount because of the number of victims that he had. I mean, there was victim impact statements read in court where it said, I went in for surgery and I came out a broken woman. I mean, these women are going to be dealing with this assault for the rest of their lives. And I mean, this is the worst kind of assault. This is a guy who's using his position as a professional and drugging his patients and taking advantage of them, knowing full well that they're partially conscious and are aware of what's happening but can't do anything about it.
You know, Tyler, I think that for me, what I would like to see happen in this country to take on issues like this is consecutive sentencing. You know, give him 5 years for each one then. It's 21 years. Good luck to him. If he can serve 105, we'll let him out.
Consecutive sentencing is allowed in this country, and the maximum...
It doesn't seem to be used very much.
Well, okay, there's another principle at play here, and it's enshrined in the criminal code. So this is part of legislation. This isn't something that a judge is just making up. It's in the code, and it can presumably be changed if somebody wants to change it. But it's the totality principle, and that when you add up all the sentences, and he may have been sentenced consecutively here in this case, I'm not sure.
I hope not, because that would mean less than 6 months per case.
Yeah.
It would mean that, and maybe there were different sentences depending on what happened to each individual person. But the total sentences need to be looked at when you add them all together and you arrive at a final global sentence for everything. The judge is obliged to consider whether or not the sentence is going to be so long as to be unjust, or so that the sentence is going to be so long as to be beyond the overall culpability that this person faces. And those are all terms that require a lot of interpretation, but I'm just saying what the judge had to have taken into account by law in passing this sentence.
There are a lot of people who abhor the idea of getting tougher on crime, which is something the Harper government is trying to do. Sarah, you used to be with the Harper government. You were the press secretary for Stephen Harper, and you know that other parties fight against this. These are the kinds of cases that make a lot of Canadians say we need to get tougher.
Absolutely, and I mean, they were given a majority in 2011, and part parcel because of their tough stance on law and order issues, and trying to fix the criminal justice system where we let parolees out, where we have someone like Vincent Lee who's going now unescorted into the town of Selkirk. He's the individual.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more in a bit.
Yeah, and, you know, so you have tons of examples that people read in and day out and say, you know, these are individuals that, you know, they claim that they're mentally, they've got some mental issues, and therefore they're in a hospital as opposed to a jail. They get 2 years as opposed to 5 years. They get bulk discounts like this individual. 21 different patients. And you know, the other part when you read into this, there is the chief anesthesiologist at North York Hospital was aware of 3 complaints about this individual before actually there was a police complaint. And I think that you know, at some level, the culpability also has to be held on the hospital for allowing this individual to continue to be operating in that role for as long as he did.
All right, I am running out of time, and I'm sorry we're short here, and I know it's your job to defend criminals, but...
well, people who are accused of crimes,
all right, but he's not accused. He's convicted.
He's found, he's guilty now.
And that's where I think we need to get tougher. I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty. Fine, he's been proven guilty. 21 cases of horrible assault on people who were in there dealing with medical issues and now have psychological issues. That anybody thinks this guy deserves daylight again is just unconscionable to me. It's
all part of the legislation, and it can all be changed. But let me tell you, if you're talking about taking away parole, taking away the chance that people have to get out of jail early, the people who are in those jails are going to make those jails much worse places.
Oh, well, cry me a river over the people in prison.
Yeah.
I understand.
I care about those 21 women. All right? Thanks for coming by.
Of course.
Always good to have you.
Good to be here.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.